Thanks, Christine. Good morning, everyone. I know there's a lot of familiar faces here, and you know me in different guises, but on Saturday, I had the privilege of working with the CARe Foundation and representing them in terms of the dialogue on the role of philanthropy in climate change. And I think it was a very interesting discussion because a lot of people didn't know what philanthropy would to do with climate change. I think that was the first issue we had to resolve. But having got past that, it was really about connecting, because a lot of what's happening right now, as highlighted in the earlier slides, is the disconnect between different parties, private sector, government, and the NGOs. And in a way, philanthropy and foundations, which was the one that we were focused on, acts as a kind of bridge, to bring different parties together on a fairly neutral platform. And I think the word about de-risking political issues came up more than once this morning, and really that's the theme of it, because there is no agenda. Other than the fact that there's a humanitarian objective at heart here, which really is what lies at the core of a lot of philanthropy. The traditional models of philanthropy were challenged. And when we looked at things like poverty alleviation, education, healthcare, medicine, etc., a lot of these things were what foundations are typically concerned about. So in a way, there's also an onus on foundations to change the way they think about the whole concept of climate change, because climate change does touch on all those three issues that I just mentioned. So the outcome of that was that we looked at three things. One, the new model for philanthropy, which really talked about how it acts as what someone very nicely coined catalytic capital, because there is a lot of capital out there which needs to find good projects. And the idea was that if these projects are still out there, which frankly are either too risky for the private sector or not the right type for government to support, then there is a path there for philanthropy to step in. The third thing was on climate literacy, because this really speaks to something that foundations are very interested in terms of literacy and awareness. Not just at the kind of educational level, but really it's a kind of public level of bringing people to the same point of understanding of what the implications of climate change are to society. And I think the last point was that in terms of the broader perspective on the Greater Bay Area, how foundations actually can work across boundaries, which I think is something that sometimes challenges governments and sometimes challenges the private sector, but there is this notion that foundations can bridge that. And it does remain that it is about cross-sectorial. It's about the systems thinking, which was highlighted earlier. We do need to think on much broader horizon. And some of these messages, some of these objectives can be fulfilled by philanthropy, working very closely with the different parties.